On Friday, the de minimis exemption for goods shipped from Canada to the U.S. will be eliminated. It has long allowed Canadian businesses to ship orders valued under $800 into the U.S. without the burden of duties, tariffs, and complex customs paperwork. But once it's gone, this will mean every package, regardless of value, is treated as a full commercial import and subject to duties and customs filings and payments, and something that could make it untenable to ship some products to the U.S. at all. So here to tell us more about how this could affect Canadian businesses is Corey Redekop, the CEO of Greater Langley Chamber of Commerce. Hello, Corey.
Hi, Karis. How are you doing today?
I'm doing very well, thanks. So I was talking yesterday about trade, and this actually came up, this de minimis exemption. So how many businesses will the elimination of this exemption affect in Langley alone?
Oh, there's lots, and I'm glad it came up because it's something that I think has been a little bit under the radar, and it's Latin, so people might even know what we're talking about. But it's going to be a big deal come Friday, because what it's impacting if you can think it's your boutiques, your artisans, your food producers, your anyone who has a website that would sell directly to consumers, and there's lots of them in here doing. We have business members that are making candles and aromatherapy items. They have people doing pet supplies and pet equipment. Lots of small-scale food processors. You can imagine here as the gateway to the Fraser Valley. You have lots of people who make jams and food products. Anything that's sold online or sold to a consumer in the States is going to be impacted by this. And as you mentioned in your intro there, it's not just makes it uncompetitive and too expensive. In many cases, it'll just won't make any sense to ship to the States at all, and they'll be shut out.
So how many of these types of, really small businesses ship to the U.S. as, maybe a primary source of their income?
I think the ones that I'm talking to in amongst my members, a surprising number of them, the U.S. makes 50, 60, 70% of their sales. So we're here in Langley, and the whole region, though, we're a border region. We've got the States are right there. It's so easy to ship things down to the States. We have common language, common culture. So it makes sense that it's frankly probably more businesses are sending things to Seattle than to Halifax. So that's why this is going to be a real problem, and why we're concerned that we've got caught in the crossfire of what was really targeted as a policy towards the big Temus and the big international online retailers. It's not really meant to stop you from being able to buy some boutique Langley clothing or some jams from one of our farms. It's really meant to be stopping just insane amount of shipments coming from other parts of the world through those online retailers, and the giant ones at that. So it's a real problem, and we're quite concerned that it's been going under the radar. So which is why we've been talking to our local MPs, talking to the ministers, working through our Canadian Chamber of Commerce to make sure that while we're talking about all the other big things, steel, aluminum, the retaliatory tariffs, that we don't lose sight of this piece and that this is on the negotiating table, because I'd hate to see us get a deal on everything else and then leave these small businesses cut out.
How long has this de minimis exemption for goods shipped from the Canada to the U.S., as long as they're valued under $800, how long has that exemption been in place? Do you know?
Lord, I think that's been around for decades. I mean, the idea in trade that you wouldn't bother de minimis, it means, it's not worth the bother. It's so small that we're not going to worry about it. It's existed for decades, I think over 30 years. Getting it to the $800 level, that the dollar value changes. It's gone up and down, and that's not as long. But this idea that, yes, Canada and the States can send things back and forth that are small and a lower value of good, and we're not going to bother with the whole rigmarole of customs, that's been around for as long as I've been alive. So it's not a new issue. Just this focus on getting rid of it is certainly new, and the fact that the Trump administration has decided to kill it altogether on Friday and not to lower the limits or to target it to certain countries, that's a real shame. So we really would like to see the federal government making sure that when Minister LeBlanc is in Washington this weekend or this coming week, speaking to them on trade, that this is one of the things on the table, because I can tell you there are a lot of small businesses, a lot of small retailers and craftspeople and makers who are going to be really hit hard by this one.
Well, and I would imagine, you represent Langley, but so much of Canada's population is right near the border, right? So there are going to be a lot of these types of businesses across the country that are going to be hurt by this.
Exactly, and that's the thing. We need to keep looking to support local. We need to keep looking to advance our markets across Canada. But when as you said, it's an insane amount of the proportion of Canada's population lives within driving distance of the U.S. border. Like we've always had, and for 40 years, have had a trade relationship that has encouraged us to do business with one another. It's only been in the last 5 or 6 months that we've blown this up. So there's going to be businesses across the country, whether it's I've got a Langley soap and candle maker, whether it's a mug and vase and art suppliers from Niagara, whether it's somebody in Calgary who runs a cool children's boutique. All these businesses are going to be impacted because if you're trying to send $90 in clothing to the U.S., they're going to see when they get to their cart suddenly having to pay 35% or more in tariffs and duties, and they're not used to that. I'm afraid we're going to see lots of carts being abandoned, and that's going to mean a lot of hardship for businesses.
And so what action are you taking?
So we're an advocacy group, so we're informing our members. There's some tips and some strategies that they can do around how they can mitigate a little bit themselves, how they can communicate to their consumers and how they might ship things. But at the end of the day, this is a government policy, and we need the government to be acting on it. Unfortunately, it's not our government's policy, so we have to try to convince and bend to the whims of the U.S. president. But what we've done is we've met with our local MPs. We've been in contact with the ministers responsible at the federal level. We're working through the Canadian chamber, since this isn't a Langley issue, this is a Canadian issue, to make sure that when those trade missions, when those visits, when Minister LeBlanc is meeting with Secretary Lutnick, that we're talking about how do we get all these things taken care of. We need to sort out the tariffs overall. We absolutely have to deal with steel, aluminum, autos, and lumber. I mean, that's just killing us. And then we want to make sure that we don't just shake hands and walk out the door, that the de minimis is kept on the table. Whether it's $800, we can work with what the dollar amount is. But Canada is a trusted, friendly trading partner, and we should, at the end of the day, when we sort out our new trading relationship, we need to make sure that we have a de minimis exemption for our small-scale businesses so that they can continue to send their awesome goods and products down to the States.
Thank you very much for this information, Corey. Really appreciate it.
Very nice to chat with you. Take care, right?